Lauren Anderson's going to talk about a different world, that of the pediatric nurse, focusing on cardiac intensive care. I can't imagine a more responsible position. And we've been thinking about having Lauren here for a while, and she's finally here. Lauren Anderson.
Hi guys. I'm really excited to be here to talk to you guys about nursing. Nursing was not something I ever considered doing when I was at Blair, and that's mostly just because I didn't really have a model for it. So I'm hoping, I was always kind of tended toward the math and sciences in high school and even in college, and I didn't really know what to do with that. So I hope that some of what I'm going to say is going to resonate with one or a couple of you, and that hopefully I can be that resource for you guys. So basically what I do as a pediatric cardiac intensive care nurse, which just kind of sounds like a long run-on, is I work on the pediatric cardiac intensive care unit at Columbia Presbyterian Morgan Stanley Children's Hospital. And what we do there is we take care of kids anywhere from infancy all the way up to 22 years of age after they've had open heart surgery. And then the other component of what we do, a large part of what we do, is we have the largest cardiac transplant program in the country between adults and pediatrics. So in the pediatric world, we do somewhere between 20 and 30 cardiac transplants a year, which doesn't sound like a lot if you think about that it's kind of a shortage of that kind of resource. It's a lot. So a lot of people, I think, misunderstand what nurses do, maybe because hopefully they haven't had too much personal experiences with nurses, especially in intensive care, hopefully. So I kind of describe it as being the eyes, the ears, the hands, and the feet of the doctor. So a lot of people think that being a nurse might mean being like a doctor's helper, and it's just not quite true. So I'm kind of the gatekeeper for my patients. I know everything that happens to them every second, every minute of the 12-and-a-half-hour shift on the unit. And I get to translate that information and decide what the doctors know about and what they don't, what's important and what's not. So I really feel like we as nurses have the ultimate responsibility to our patients. And so I really appreciate that. And now kind of looking towards the next stages of my career, I've enrolled part-time through Georgetown, taking classes online to become a family nurse practitioner. So eventually, a few years, I'll actually have a little more autonomy in my practice and become a prescriber and be able to take care of my own patient cases. So it's really kind of exciting. Like Sam said, I'm totally available and open for whatever questions you guys have. I don't want to go on too long, but thanks for having me.
Lastly, we have Will Knapp, who's one of the funniest and most outrageous people ever to grace the Blair stage. Will is a man of many talents, and I think you'll enjoy hearing him. Will Knapp.
All right, first piece of advice right off the bat, front row, fix your sock game. Everyone in the front row has sports socks on. And this is not day one stuff, guys. This is important. All right, so my background, who here, by show of hands, is in supervised study hall? Like mandatory supervised. These are my people. This talk is for you, sir. You're the only one. If you have above a 5.0 GPA, nothing I say will probably help you. So, all right, I was kind of a misfit in high school. Blair Academy was so awesome, so excellent. I don't know if you know the gentleman, but Mr. Gertson probably pretty much saved my life. I was a total knucklehead. And he kind of turned me around. I loved East Hall. And so I went through school and I wanted to be a film major. And basically everyone I talked to told me that there was absolutely no money in film and that I would be putting duct tape on the floor somewhere as like a PA, which really bummed me out. So I went and got my master's degree in interactive design, and I ended up at a libertarian think tank, a job that I got on a golf course. So if you play golf, continue to play golf. It's going to help you out eventually. But my passion has always been being funny, comedy. So in LA, I do stuff with the Groundlings, if you've ever heard of them. It's like the D League for Saturday Night Live. Terrell Killam, a lot of really funny people have been out of there. And I do improv short form comedy for them. And I've also been doing stand-up for a number of years. And I can't do any of those jokes here because I'm pretty sure I'd be asked to leave. But no, so my main thing is, like, I didn't prepare a long speech right now. What I can give you is complete honesty. You can pretty much ask me anything and I will try and give you the William history X of, you know, my life. And to be honest, a lot of the advice I will give you is don't repeat what I did, learn from me. But I've had a great time, I've done a lot of cool stuff, I've been around the world, joined a fraternity, turned up, had a blast. So have a good time asking me questions and I'll be 100% honest. Thanks, guys.
Let's direct questions to individuals or the group, and the floor is open. Just what do we have here? Come on, guys, we have questions. Questions directed to anyone? Yes?
What kind of people did you make the libertarian think tank? Any whack jobs?
A lot of people who love pot. Libertarians are wild for pot. No, you meet a lot of libertarians in a libertarian think tank. There are people that hate authority, which is kind of an interesting concept to pitch to a boarding school. But no, it's people that really have kind of been fed up with government in one way or another. A lot of people that have had like a personal incident that changed them. A lot of people that have had really negative run-ins with the cops usually end up being libertarians. But it's been an incredible experience because they're some of the smartest, most laid-back people you'll ever meet. And we get no votes, so it's really easy to do what we do.
I have a question for Sam. Or just tell me, whatever you prefer.
You can come to Sam.
Okay,
Go for it.
Working at would you call it a small business, or more or less, you know, where you deal directly with your boss,
Yeah.
and all that. Where do you see yourself progressing if you're sort of, you know, if it's at such a small company that there isn't necessarily immediate space to expand?
Cool. So the thing about startups is if you're looking for a vertical progression in your career where you start out as an associate and then you become, I don't know if it's about associate, and then maybe you're a manager and then you're a partner, it's just not for you. Startups look for people who are really agile, that can adapt and take on new roles and solve complex problems quickly. So the way I like to pitch it to candidates that are interviewing is, you're not going to have that straight line. You're going to be zigzagging around, and maybe you'll be in charge of an initiative, and then 6 months later you'll be on a team, and then 5 months later you'll be one out of 3 people creating our strategy department. But you started out in customer support, and it moves around really quickly. And everybody that joins our company is okay and likes that attitude, that you'll be needed to be, you have to be repurposed periodically. So in terms of my position at my company, we're always going to need to hire people. So I'd like to think that somewhere down the line, there will be another position for me and I'll hire a replacement. But the way with startups works, and I know everyone's heard of Facebook, is hopefully you make it big and I have equity, and then I go start my music label and have a yacht or something. That's kind of the plan right now. So if you guys want to come on the yacht, that's cool too. You can. I'll invite you. We'll have a Blair party.
Remember, the questions can be about Blair, college, their life, anything. It can be anything.
Did you have any setbacks at Blair that you had to learn from and overcome?
Maybe go down the line here.
I guess I'll field this one first. You don't know this teacher, but David Lowe, my freshman year, pretty much asked me to leave. He was like, you are just awful. We don't know what you're doing here. And that kind of inspired me to do great. And I thank David Lowe for it. I think he knew what he was doing. I think it was all part of a plan. But no, I think Blair Academy was one of those things where I had a little bit too much energy, a little bit too much pizzazz for Blair Academy. But to be honest, what I'll tell you about setbacks at Blair is this. you are in the room, right now, you're in a room with some of the brightest, most talented young people in the world. And I know it's hard, or it's easy to forget that because you're around these people every day, but I'm telling you, like, you're surrounded by excellence. So feed from it, grow from it, learn from your friends, keep in contact with these people, and just always remember, like, you're excellent. If you're a Blair, you're already excellent, and try and live up to that name, because, I mean, you guys really should do good things, should do great things. My college courses were much easier than my Blair courses, I'm gonna be real.
Lauren, you want to go down the line on that one?
Sure. I don't think I didn't like get in trouble at Blair, maybe in that sense. I was pretty straight and narrow through my Blair career, but I would say that coming to Blair was a really huge decision for me. I grew up in a really small town in New Jersey. It's called Monmouth Beach. Nobody's ever heard of. And I didn't know anyone who went to boarding school. And my family and I kind of decided to look at all of our options, and eventually we decided on Blair. So I really didn't know what I was doing for the entire time I was here, and even like for part of my college career at Villanova. I just knew that I liked science and that I was pretty good at it, so I thought I would stick with it. And then I actually discovered rowing at Blair. I was a 4-year rower at Blair, and then I ended up rowing in college. So I just kind of got lucky and figured it out along the way. But that said, I cried the entire drive to Blair on my first day of school. The 2.5-hour drive, I cried. And my parents told me I didn't have to stay. Like, I just had to register for class. That's all I had to do was just register. And that if at the end of the day I want to go home, I could. And so I got in line for registration. I was like, I'm definitely going home at the end of the day. And of course, by lunch, I figured out that I think I'll stay. I liked my roommate, and I'll figure it out. So it's really kind of a one day at a time kind of deal. And kind of elaborating on what Will said is, you know, you guys, you're so set up for success here, and you don't realize this now. I thought on my first day of orientation that I'd already failed Blair because, like, I didn't do my summer reading and it was the end of the world, and I shouldn't even show up for the first day of class. But what you don't realize is that whatever happens in your life, and I kind of speak from what I've seen with my patients too, whatever happens in your life, it's happening because you can handle it. So whatever's tough, like whatever exam you have coming up or regatta or whatever, you got it. Just know ahead of time that you got it in the bag, and then just plug through it one thing at a time.
So I guess maybe like a minor setback would be like my transition from Blair into the outside world. I did not heed the advice of any of my college counselors or advisors or faculty that I was close friends with, and decided it would be a brilliant idea to apply to 4 universities. And maybe it's because Will and I were on class council, and every time he was like, Sam, you're so excellent, like, don't worry.
Hype man.
Yeah, bad hype man. No, so I actually didn't get into my first choice in school, and when regular decision came around, I didn't get in again. And then I had gotten into some schools, and I just said, like, no, this isn't happening. I'm going somewhere else. So it was with the support of my Chinese teacher, Mrs. Kramer, who's no longer here. She's down at MKA now, I think, last I heard. That I chatted with her one day, and she was like, Sam, why don't you just move to Taiwan? And so I did. So I moved to Taiwan for like 5 months. And I remember, and like she picked me up from the airport, and I like landed in this country right after I graduated Blair. And I was like, why am I here? It smells weird, and what is this food you're feeding me? And you said this was soy milk, and this is like not soy milk, this is something else. And I like was about to cry in front of her, but I had to like choke it down, because you don't want to do that in front of your teachers. But thanks to Mrs. Kramer, she like set me up with the house, got a cool apartment, was living in Taiwan. We figured things out. She was like my little moral support. We got like tea time sometimes, which was cool, before she'd come back to the States. And then I remember like, it was like Halloween, and I was like sitting for the SATs, and like all my friends were partying in college. And I was like across the world taking SATs again. But it worked out, and I went to Boston College and had a great time there. So if you guys, I guess, you know, can't figure it out with college the first time around, Blair will help you figure it out the second time.
I
guess I was under pretty strict supervision at Blair, so I tried to keep the setbacks to a bit of a minimum. Maybe calculus of Mr. Browse in this room would qualify for that, but a couple nights a week of extra help and you're okay. I think I actually really agree with Will when he said that college is much easier than Blair. I mean, if you, at the end of Blair, I was exhausted, to be honest. Like, you're just always busy here, whereas college, you know, even if you take 5 classes, which is a lot, that's 15 hours a week. I mean, you know, there are days where I've worked 15 hours. I mean, you have so much more free time in college, but I think Blair is pretty good preparation for work in the sense that, like, work is more like Blair, where you come home and you're tired and it's been a long day. So I think if you can get through Blair, you can do a lot of things.
Could you comment on your freshman year and the freshman year of the other guys at Penn and how you felt that freshman year? It was a little, didn't that
Yeah,
change?
so freshman year at Penn, so I had known I wanted to work on Wall Street basically since sophomore year. Actually, my fiance, who went to Blair as well, her father took us both up to the Merrill Lynch trading floor. It was like 2004. It was boom time. I mean, it was a ton of fun. I was like, I have to do this. This is the greatest job ever. But for me, I was like, okay, I'm not a super mathy guy. Like, I don't want to apply to Wharton right away because I don't think I'll get in. I want to, I think I can get into the college. I have good enough grades. So I was kind of unsure. Do I want to, transfer to Wharton in college? Do I want to study history and classics? I ended up considering transferring to Wharton, but then ultimately sticking with history. Another guy who was in Wharton, he's a prop trader now at RBC. His name's Raleigh Peterkin. He did okay on that path. So I think there's multiple ways to get to sort of the same end as long as you're focused. I mean, he did the Wharton thing. He does a job that's very similar to what I do now. I went another route. So I wouldn't worry too much about that.
Okay. Any questions to any or and all folks there? Yeah.
I have a question for Sam. Well, I have a friend who, like you, he's an electronic music DJ, and he's, like you, your passion is music, but you're also working on a startup company, which is obviously takes up a lot of time. And he's a DJ and a student as well, and he's trying to make it big. And I was wondering what your thoughts are on being able to balance having a startup company while also chasing your passion in music.
Yeah, so I guess I can use like 3 case studies that we'll use. So one would actually be a former Blair graduate, James Hinton, who went to Brown and is now producing music under his moniker The Range. And if you follow electronic music at all, you'll know that he's been kind of blowing up. He's signed to this label in the UK called Donkey Pitch, and they have been doing some really great stuff this past year. He has 2 EPs out with them, and then they selected him for their first full-length release. He was in the same boat. He was going to school full-time at Brown, knew he wanted to be making music, and knew that making music was going to be expensive because you don't get paid unless you're like playing clubs all the time, and that's not what he was going for. He wasn't going to go and be a club DJ. He was going to go make his own music and score sound movies and video games, and hopefully that's the direction he's moving in. So I know for James, he actually spent the last semester of his college putting aside money and figuring out a way that he could go about making his music and dedicating time to it. So his thesis was an album that he released, which was really cool. And then he was a day trader for a while. That's how he kind of made it happen. And then one of my friends, and it doesn't always work out, and this is the case of my other friend. So a close friend of mine from Boston College couldn't handle the balance of the two, only wanted to focus on music, and he actually dropped out. And he would be graduating this year. He actually made it big, so he kind of got lucky. But I'm not saying do that. But he pursued it full time and just sat in his room and tried to be as productive as possible. It's one of those things if you're a creative artist and a writer or something, even on days that you don't want to do it, you need to force yourself to do it because you can get lazy and fall off the bandwagon, and then you're not putting things forth. So he was kind of the failed example. He wasn't able to manage them, but now he's making it work because he's really focusing and making sure he has support around him. And then I guess for me, how do I pursue my passions? I guess I work 24/7, and if I'm not at work, because I probably work 12-hour days at my startup. And by the way, I didn't found this company. My CEO founded it, I just work there. I make sure that I'm dedicating like at least 30% of the time that I'm awake and alive every week to my passions. Just so that I don't like get stale and unhappy. I don't want to be an unhappy person. I don't know. Not a great answer, but just focus. Yes. Have a lot of energy, drink Red Bull. That works.
Any questions? Yeah.
Lauren, how do you stay so positive with so much negative? There's such sad stuff around you.
Oh, I have bad days too. I think that it's easy for all the really bad days to kind of stand out in your mind, but then I just remind myself that there's like 10 or 20 kids that we actually are successful in treating them for maybe every one or even every half of one that doesn't do well. So it can be really hard. Working at Columbia, we're really kind of pushing the envelope on some of the things that we do, especially when it comes to cardiology. We have machines now that can act as your heart and your lungs and your kidneys and just about any other organ in your body. So it's easy to keep people alive. It doesn't mean that we should. So there are major ethical issues that come up every day that I'm at work, and it's certainly not always easy. But even on the kids that don't do well or aren't going to do well, they still deserve the highest level of care. And so I make sure that I do that. And so even if they don't make it, or even if they don't make a full recovery, I know, and we all know, that we've done everything that we can to treat them. So, you know, that helps me sleep at night for sure.
I guess this is a question for everybody, but is there something, not necessarily that you regret, but maybe you wish you'd done more of at Blair, or something you never did but you wish you did?
I'll tackle this first, biggest regret. I applied to 2 schools leaving Blair. Elon University, where I went, and University of Guam, where I was going to study last. I did not take the college process seriously at all. I didn't care. I wasn't really big on it. And I ended up very blessed. I loved Elon. I had a great time there. But I really wish I would have taken that process a lot more seriously. And I feel like I kind of didn't take it seriously out of spite. Like I felt like I was fighting the man somehow by not applying anywhere. That was dumb. That was so stupid. Don't do that. Apply to a lot of places. Really think about where you want to go to college. Think about the area. Think about like what you want to do. College is great. Take it seriously. Have a blast. I went to college with people who didn't like where we went to school, and I felt so sorry for them. I was like, you are really missing out because this college thing is great. Yeah, so take your college process seriously.
I didn't do what Will did, because I applied to like 10 colleges, which I probably was also my biggest mistake. I was so stressed out in high school. Like I thought I had to do everything perfectly. I had to take every AP class. I had to get the greatest ERG score so that I could get row in college, and like I thought I was failing at everything. And the truth is that it all works out one way or the other. I probably could have spent less time in the ERG room and maybe had a little more fun with Will over here. And so I definitely not.
Get your mind out of the gutter.
That's my brother's okay. But I probably would have relaxed a little more. I mean, truly, I know everyone says this, but truly, it all works out in the end. And I definitely took the long route to where I am now. I could have probably figured out earlier that I wanted to be a nurse and gone to school for nursing, and then not had to go back to school to get another degree in nursing. And so just really think about what you really want to do, because I think I knew earlier on, then maybe I realized that that I wanted to be part of healthcare, and if I maybe spent more time actually getting experience and figuring out what that actually meant, I probably could have gotten there sooner.
So I found out, I think my junior year, that there used to be, and this is something that like you should all go and do tonight, like figure this out, because I wish I did. There used to be a radio station on flight deck in some room, and it broke, and so when I came to Blair, we had no radio station. And I would hear the upperclassmen talk about like all the late night shows and like senior girls like up there, and then like the freshman boys had crushes on them, they're on flight deck and like all this fun stuff, and like that would have been so rad. And you should fix it. I will be your audio engineer if you want someone to help you build this transmitter and get everything up and running. Please bring that back to Blair. So.
Flight deck used to be a day student area. It's now a dorm. It's not a dormitory.
Oh, okay. No, I mean there was chair jousting with freshman boys my year. Yeah. Broken limbs.
I guess for me, it just kind of falls into the like senior year burnout categories. I was just done my senior year, and I didn't play squash. I said I'm not going to play squash. I'm going to do varsity weight training instead, and that's probably my one regret. I wish I had just stuck with that. And I think at the end of Blair, you're just like, okay, I've been doing this. Like, I'm exhausted. It gets much better when you get to college. Trust me, you're going to have that break. So I think just take advantage of Blair while you're here and kind of run through the tape, as if you want to use a hackneyed finance phrase.
What does that mean?
End of the race, run through the tape.
This is a question for Will. Do you think that you would be where you are now in like your acting and comedy career if you hadn't gone to college?
Whoa. I don't know. All right, so I'm going to say no. And the reason I'm going to say no is I think I spent a lot of my life believing that I was entitled to things, especially when I was at Blair. I was an entitled little jerk. And I thought like just because I was smarter than other people or quicker or better liked that things should just happen for me. And that's not true at all. Don't think those things. I know so many people in Hollywood that just expect to do great things because they are. And that's not the case at all. And I think if I had gone directly to Hollywood from Blair Academy, I would have gone there with all the wrong mentalities and all the wrong motivations. But I think college is one of those times where you realize kind of you are a lot smaller than you think, and you do have to kind of adhere to your passions. So, I mean, I know a lot of people that go directly from high school and do great in Hollywood. I'm not going to tell you that's not a path, but if you haven't figured out exactly who you are yet, if you don't believe your own hype yet, if you aren't established, don't do that. Don't do that. But if you're like ready to go, raring to go, you have an act, everyone says, oh my God, you're hilarious or you're so talented, I'm not going to tell you shouldn't, but for me, I just wasn't ready.
This is for Sam and Will. If you guys, what is your go-to senior class council skit?
Whoa.
Can we like can we comment on this one?
Yeah, we were on the same senior class
Yeah.
council.
I mean, Miss 40 did not approve a lot of our things. Like, actually, it would be like, okay, we have 5 ideas, which one?
You want me to go first on this one? Just
Okay.
my favorite senior class council moment. We used to do like a lot of videos, and do you guys is Sam Adams here? Oh boy! So we did a skit one time, and it was a video, and basically the premise was I started my own pornographic website called naughtynef.com, and that all the Blair servers were crashing because so many people were visiting my porn site. And the faculty loved it. Let me tell you, they loved this skit. To this day, I still laugh about it because there's like video of me in full glitter makeup, like hanging upside down in a room, and then me as Sam Adams just like pounding a keyboard. Sam never talked to me after that. Like, most people were cool about the jokes we did. Sam was not. But Sam's a great guy, awesome guy. Just didn't think that was very fun.
Just to add something to it, Will is my advisee. Every Friday after school meeting, I got a call from Mr. Hardwick. Rod, you got to talk to Will and you got to pull him in a little bit. Every Friday, that's the email or the phone call I got. So I go back to see Will and.
Quick Blair advice, by the way. Mr. G saved my life. This guy, like, I honestly wouldn't have made it through this school without Mr. G. He's one of the coolest people I've ever met. If you get a chance to get him on his own, he'll give you the straight shit on anything. He's one of the coolest human beings I know. A big reason I am the person I am today. Truthfully, I mean that.
Smoke mirrors.
I'd say we were cruel. like there was a point in the school year where no one would make announcements because they knew that we were going to do something to them. And we were like approached multiple times by the faculty and Ms. Conforti and like, hey guys, like if there are announcements that have to be made this week, like.
This announcement is really serious. Please don't mess with us.
Yeah. And then we'd like hold up signs or like, it was bad. So be nicer.